One of the things that somebody will notice if they come through the doors of your church will probably be the style in which congregational worship is expressed. And I think for any of us, we could probably pinpoint in our context things that express kind of a certain style in which we exist and things are expressed. I also think if you've been in ministry any length of time or been around the church any length of time, you've probably noticed style changes over the years. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and so 90s was typically a big time of change within the trajectory of music within the church. But if you look back, you can see how there's been lots of those iterations over the years. You can go back to like the 60s and the 70s and the Jesus movement and the incorporation of guitar and songs about testimony from people who are finding Jesus. But you can go back even further and see how all these have changed over the years as instruments were invented and implemented within the church. And so when it comes to style, all these things come into play. And because, as we've talked about in a lot of these videos, in this series, music, in particular, any kind of art, is so personal. And when it comes to expressing that, people tend to get a little sideways and have some strong opinions about the style in which we express worship. And so I think the first question is why is style something that's worthy to engage in with a discussion with folks in your ministry as well as folks within your congregation?
I think style is really interesting because everybody in our church has some preference. There's people that love classical music that may come into the church and just think it's so loud, even if you're just using one guitar to lead worship. It's something that meets people exactly where they are, where they live throughout the week. They have this preference that they come in to the service with. And so as worship pastors and people that lead the congregation in worship, it's more than likely one of the first things that they hear or see inside the service is the music, depending on how your service flows. And so for them to come into the service and to hear that, our job is to really move them to a place where they are immediately connected to the Holy Spirit and where God is speaking to them through the music, no matter what the style is or no matter what the presentation is, whether it's choir and orchestra or a rhythm band. That to me is one of the most challenging things to do, because people do have an expectation, I think, when they walk into the sanctuary, but to kind of redirect that passion a little bit and to help them to understand that why we're here is to give God the glory, give Him the honor, to experience His presence together. And that to me is a big part of discipleship in that regard, is to steer people more toward that instead of a particular style. But we're all still going to have our preferences and things that we like over anything else.
I think worship style, how I would I think give a definition of it would be my church's character and personality and how we express our love to Jesus as a faith community. So that's more than the songs we sing. It's how we do what we do. It's how we navigate the gathered time of worship. And then even how we communicate how we exit that time of worship into our community. So it becomes important for as we're considering style, that we maybe ask more questions than just, what about the music that we're doing? Your style, when we all walked in here today, we all have a style, right? And it communicates something. You know, Sean with his velvety kicks, you know that about Sean, right? There's a certain thing that comes with him, and my friend Nick in his slate blue pants. You know, we all have a style, literally, that communicates. I love the color yellow. When you see me, it's not uncommon to see me in yellow because I think it exudes joy, right? When we walk into our choices, the style is more than just what we sing. It's how the greeters greet. It's how people interact with each other. And what we do in worship can help to move that and to help give context and color to that. But a style really is more than just those minutes of singing. It's so much more than that. And people aren't going to be drawn back to, we love the idea that people will stay at a church because they feel valued and they feel known. Not because you did all of the new songs or you still do hymns. Most of the time people, it is the other parts, our style, that makes them stick and stay or drives them away.
I think one of the things that I think struck by as I heard you talking about style is that if we're ever going to change our style, the first thing that we're probably going to ask is, hey, what do you think about, right? Like, I'm wearing Nick's suit today, right? So like, hey, what do you think about that? Is that my most authentic self? Mm-hmm. Or has suddenly my authentic self, or the person I thought was authentic, now maybe less authentic because there's something else aspirationally, right? Like the Lord is changing something or restoring something, right? And so I think that I frame it in that way because I think, again, it goes back to the conversation we already had a little bit about the pursuit of God's presence over the pursuit of my preference, and also opening that conversation for everyone else to say, hey, what do you think about this? Is who we were our most aspirational self? Like, is the Lord stirring something in us? And can we have that conversation? Because I guarantee you, if we just change overnight and think, hey, the answer is a different song, we're going to be in some trouble.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I think that idea of inviting people into the process changes it from this is something that the Lord is leading us to do, instead of us in causing something to happen to them where they don't get a say with it. So then their posture is immediately different, and I can say from experience that's a costly mistake to make. When we reopened from COVID, we had 2 different services, 2 different worship spaces, 2 different worship teams, 2 different worship catalogs. Everything was different, basically 2 churches. And our lead pastor and I were talking one day, and man, when we reopen, it would just be so good for all of these reasons for us to come back together. Maybe not for forever, but let's come back to a combined service. And we tried to navigate it as best as we could, but come to find out, it was just a decision that we kind of made. We talked with some other key leaders, but then people who had already been going through so much during a pandemic found out that their church was going to look and feel and sound different. And for a third of our church, it was going to be in a different space entirely. Their church was canceled in a way. And that was a painful thing for many people. It was a very hard road for us to walk. And really has just taught us to continue to discern with a group of people, as a group of people, and being open to how the Spirit is leading all of those decisions, and being okay with, okay, that's not really, I really wanted us to make this change, but seems like something else is stirring. I've got to be okay with that. So yeah, I think that's so key to bringing people along with us. You hear of that metaphor too. If you're driving this big fruit truck and you're trying to make a real sharp turn, the speed at which you take that turn that kind of determines how many fruit are you going to lose as you make the real sharp turn. If it's real quick, if you feel like you're making a decision just in isolation with not a lot of people involved, it's real easy for people to just fall away. And So yeah, as you make change, as you determine worship style, the aesthetic of the space, like all of this is all intertwined, and it's got to be done in community for sure.
I'd like to dig a little deeper in that direction and just kind of get your thoughts on when would it be appropriate to begin thinking about shifting the style in which worship is expressed.
There's always some catalyst that's never decided in a vacuum, right? There's signs of stirring. There's signs of maybe it's a quickened urgency, or maybe it's a season change in a church. But I do know for sure that it's never in isolation, and it can. I think it's best practiced and considered as, hey, we believe that. I really think that it's got to be of the Lord. Mm-hmm. If it's not of the Lord, then hey, we're also in some kind of trouble. Mm-hmm. And if it's of the Lord, then I think that His Spirit would bear the same witness in other people, and they'd begin to say, you know what? Yes, I can see that. I think it's time for this, or let's talk about this, or what could this look like, right? So if you think you're steering the fruit truck by yourself without GPS, you're headed for disaster.
I think it's always good. This may go without saying, but perhaps it needs to be said, to consult with your lead pastor before making a huge change like that. You want to definitely make sure that they are on board with that. And then I also think that I lead a quote unquote traditional service, and so there was a time when my pastor came to me and said, I think it's time that we push the envelope just a little bit, turn it up a little bit, do some newer songs. And what we decided, the avenue that we would take to do that, was not to drop the choir and orchestra, but actually bring everybody along the journey with us. And to say, I think the Lord is asking us to do a new song, and to go along with Scripture. I think He's speaking to us in a new way. It doesn't mean that we leave all of the old behind and never sing it again, never talk about it again. It's not about that. It's about bringing everybody along with us, and whether that be a more traditional way of presenting that newer song, because everybody in our context where we're planted is used to that kind of feel. And so while we might drive the rhythm band a little bit more on a newer song instead of the orchestra, it looks and feels much the same way. And I think also when you're bringing new songs into the fold, to really remind the congregation and say, we're singing this new song, but we used to sing it this way, and begin to sing A Blessed Assurance or And It Is Well, and really watch as they put together how the words intersect. And it's how we've always been singing it, but it's just a new and different way of expressing that faith.
We did that with Trust in God and Blessed Assurance.
Yeah.
Right? Same lyrics,
Perfect.
but then we added. So it's so sweet to hear some folks who wouldn't necessarily like that, come in humming, He will never fail, and they would never normally sing something like that. But all of a sudden, because we, tried tying the two together to introduce something that was different. Another a fellow pastor, he actually, when he was looking to shift a bit, would actually invite someone in to come in and be a part of that shift, like hear another voice. And so he would just invite someone in, and he might surround it around a weekend of worship or just in the service, and they would try songs that they hadn't done before with this other person there, and it felt very natural, a natural shift. And then it became part of what they do once that person leaves. But it was one of those gentle ways to introduce something in their setting, and it worked for them. When he was ready, it was like, okay, we're ready to take the next leap. Let's do that. And actually, he would even apply that when it wasn't about making a style change musically. It might have been a style change in the culture of their church. They would use music to help shift it, right? And it worked. It worked for them. It became a way where it's like, okay, we are turning the bus and we can do this. And our friend has come to help and yada, yada. And it worked. It was, for him, a very brilliant strategy because they trusted him. That's another thing. If your church does not trust their leadership, style changes will be difficult. It will be, because you're trying to change us. But they trusted him. And he was like, okay, here we go. Next round, next corner we're coming to. He wouldn't do it alone. He would call in the community of faith, the family of faith, to, hey, go with us on this journey, and this is what this will look like. And
you have to have a lot of equity, trust equity,
Yes.
to make that
Yes.
change for sure.
Yeah, because it's not like we're not afraid to change. Like,
Right.
we change stuff all the time.
Uh-huh.
Hair, shoes, outfits,
Right.
nails. I mean, you name it. But we're afraid of what we don't understand.
Right.
And so when we help people understand what's going on
Yeah.
and the Spirit's at work in that, then I think you really can begin to shift the atmosphere of what's going on in your
Absolutely.
culture and your setting.
A lot of discernment, and there's going to be tension. There's always going to be tension in this conversation, and I think change for the sake of change is not a good thing, but change with the discernment of the Holy Spirit and guiding you into a new season or whatever it's just, like you said, having other voices that lead pastor, just this is where we're going, and another discerning voice to guide you on that. Just important. I think it's good to remind people too that this might be simplifying it, but sometimes the congregation in which I serve, we have 2 services. They're exactly the same. I have not had to change styles in the 10 years that I've been there. But I think I still get, the questions and the can we do this and all of that. And I think it's good to remind people that they're in service on Sunday. They're at the church for an hour and 15 minutes of their entire week. And so if there's a song that's just really speaking to you, and we talked about this prayer closet thing in a couple videos ago, remind people that, we have great access to music these days. We have which is part of the problem, is that we have too much access, but also a good problem to have is that we have so much access, and encouraging our people to find ways that if maybe there's a style of music that you're missing here in this very, very small fraction of your life throughout the week, maybe you can implement it throughout your week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, like maybe start your mornings with that on that YouTube channel that plays that song for you, so that when you come into this setting, and again, change is good, and maybe there is a space that we do need to change styles, and that is true, but maybe we need to do that so you're not coming into this space feeling so frustrated. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a good reminder that we have to really journey with our people,
Right.
so that they understand that when we get to that corporate gathering, it's not about that corporate gathering meeting all of my felt needs or my personal preferences. But this is an opportunity for us to say, hey, listen, I love seeing that person there, and I'm going to let go of my personal preferences to be able to serve them. And hopefully everyone is doing that. So when we're coming in, that's part of unity. That's part of being the body, is that we're coming together and sharing in that together, even though it may not be my personal preference. Like, hey, Nick, he loves that. Sweet, that's awesome. Let's do it. And I can learn and I can grow from that. And hopefully we can all learn and grow from each other. Yeah. And I think in just a lot of our discussions, it kind of comes back to keeping the main thing. That we can talk about style, we can talk about the practice of implementing different things and navigating, hey, we want to incorporate this sort of instrument or this song from this background or whatever. But at the end of the day, we want to point people to Jesus and we want to be declaring the gospel, and we want to see lives changed and lives transformed. And so wherever you're at in that discussion, that's our prayer, is that you'll be able to encourage your folks to keep Jesus at the center as you navigate change and growth in your ministry.